This is a video showing my reloading setup. I use this to reload shotgun shot shells. They're shot, pick up holes, bring the holes home, put them through reloading. This is the bench area. 2 machines, nice cover on both of them. This is a Size Master. It's a machine that I do not use anymore. It's called a single stage because you pull the lever and do one shell, you move the shell, pull the lever, single stage. This is a recent one with a MEC cover. It's called a grabber. It's a progressive, meaning that you put one shell in, do the activity, move it around. The second activity and the first activity are done together. Then the third, second, and first are done together. So you end up doing a box of shells more quickly. This is my bench area. This is a multi-purpose workbench from Harbor Freight. There has 2 top drawers. I've also added a set of drawers on the side. These are computer workstation drawers. They hold miscellaneous activities, extra equipment, and so on. The bench underneath is for storage. These are different kinds of wads. The white wads are for my Remington shells, and the pink wads and green wads are for my Bash and Polari shells. There's a scale. This is part of my other workbench, and I do use this drill press with the shot shell loading. There's a particular device called a roll crimp. It's a GAEP, G-A-E-P, BN2. I also have a tool bench, a tool chest with in these shells, and more wads, miscellaneous equipment, including reused powder jugs with shot. I have a set of empty holes in here, and I have pepper shot in the bottom. I use this table for various activities, which I'll illustrate in a few minutes. And over here in the storage area, I have, on the bottom shelf, I have some pepper shot and STS shot, and a box full of used, reloaded holes. The first step of reloading is to collect holes. Holes are empty shot shells that have been shot. I pick up the commercial shells that I shoot, and I also pick up holes that other people shoot. The hole is the empty part of the shell. I'm going to go get my box. This is the box of holes that was on the far shelf. These are holes that have been shot once. I put a mark, reloaded once. They've been shot as shot shells and then shot as reloaded shells. All of these have a mark showing they've been shot once. These are shells that I picked up that haven't been reloaded. They've been shot once commercially, have no mark. These are B and P shells, which stands for Buzzer and Pelagi. Italian manufacturer of shot shells. Are probably produced in the US. They're straight walled hulls. These are Remington STS. Both sets of shells here are shells that have a mark on them, meaning that I've shot them. They've been shot once commercially, and I've reloaded them once and shot them, picked them up. The hulls are empty shot shells. There's no shot, wad, or powder in the hull. There's a used primer. If you look really close, you can see a dent in the primer. That's where the hammer on the shotgun has broken the primer, causing it to, the primer explodes, lights the powder, pushes the shot out. I have another set of hulls over here. These are hulls that have not been reloaded. I have, in this box, I have about 500 BNP shells and 500 Remington STS or Remington Nitro shells. They've only been shot once commercially. I have not reloaded these yet. I'm trying to sell them, haven't had success. If I don't sell them, I'll eventually use them. When I'm preparing to do reloading, there's three sets of materials that have to be put in the reloader. The first is the primers. They're laid down in this tray. Then the tray is lifted up, and the primers will drop into the primer hole during the first handle pull. Also have shot in this bottle. You can't see it, but it's filled up pretty full with shot. I try to keep it full. You can see how far down the screwdriver goes, not very far, so that's the level of the shot. This shot's put in the shot bottle. And then I have, this one has powder. It's also pretty full. I just filled it up tonight. I try to keep these at least half full. The pressure of the shot and the powder help them to fall down, be dispersed in the shot. I have two other things. So I've showed you my size master, which I'm not using. I also have a leather punch press, which I've adapted to put a GAEP, G-A-E-P, tool on. I use that occasionally. For a while I was using it all the time. Now I'm mostly using the MEC Grabber fully. These are primers from the last couple of years. Each of the cartons probably has 2,000 or 3,000 primers in it. So there are several primers. I think I've saved all the primers that I've pulled out. All right, the procedure I'll talk through the procedure for using the MEC. Shell is an empty hull is placed in the D primer. When the handle is depressed, there's a D primer punch that pushes the primer out, the used primer into the bottom. At the same time, the primer tray drops a new primer into the tray. Now the primer is gone. When that is done, the tray is moved. The primer drops into the primer seating hole, and the empty hull is moved over the top of the primer hull. I'm using STS shells. I put it in hulls. I put another one in, a new one in. Now when I pull the punch, the first station will work as it did. A primer will drop. This bar will come down and place the primer into the shell. When I lift the handle up, this bar will slide over. This is called the charge bar, and the powder will drop into the hull. All right, so these are done simultaneously. This is called a progressive reloader because It's progressive. Everything goes around, and in the single stage, you do one at a time. All right, so here we go. Pull down the handle, deprimer. The primer is dropped. When this happens, this bar will move down, and it will release the charge bar, at which time powder drops into the hole that's seated. So we've done two things at once now instead of doing one thing at a time. All right. Move the tray lifter around. You can see now we have another primer in here. We have a hull that has powder in it. We put another a hull into the empty spot. This hull now is going to receive shot. So when the bar moves down, this will push the bar to the side and the shot will fall in. In order to receive shot, we have to put a wad into the hull. So when we pull down, that wad's going to go down. This bar is going to move over. I'll do this sort of slowly so you can see it. All right, the wad is going down into the shell, the hull, the primer bar, the shot bar is going to move the charge bar to the left. The shot is now fallen down into the hole. We've put powder in here. We've done another primer. Lift it up. It goes back, and when it goes back, the powder is released into there, and you see the shot in the hole. All right, move it next stage. Once again, put a new empty hull in. This stage, this is called a Spindex crimper. It will come down and it will make the first part of the crimp. The crimp is the part of the shell that folds together. There's 8 petals, and this is an 8-petal crimper. So I'm going to put a wad in again for this hole. Pull the handle down, and the handle. Now this part of the machine has done the pre-crimp. You can see the sort of mountain-looking thing with the slight hole at the top. That is a pre-crimped shell. Everything else happened as before. Same sequence. Move this around. Put another hole in. Put a wad in. Now what's going to happen is the station, that was station 4, station number 5, will put the first crimp on the shell. All the other stations will do what they've been doing. All right, here we go. Wad goes in, push down. The crimp is on the shell in station 5. You lift up, you can see that it has a crimp. You can also see there's one little pellet in the middle. That's because the crimp did not go all the way to the side. I need to probably adjust the pre-crimp for that to work correctly, but that's okay. Move everything around, put another hole in. The last station, station 6, puts a rounded edge on the shell, and that's in order so that these shells will slide in and out easily in pump guns and semi-autos, which is what I have. All right, take another wad, put the wad in, pull the handle down. Everything works at all 6 stations. Go at once. Move it around. You have a finished shell. Take that shell out and place it in a holder to do something later with it. All right. We can continue to do that. I'm going to finish up, and I'll finish up by not putting a new empty hole in. So in order to do that, I have to adjust the primer tray so primer won't drop. I still need a wad. All right, so now 5 stations are working. There's no primer drop, there's no hole in there, but all the other stations work. Rotate it, take this other finished shell out. By the way, that's a pretty nice crimp. I need one more wad. Put the wad in. By the way, when this station is empty and you pull it down, the bar will go in. This release lock will go up and hold the bar in so that powder isn't dumped down on the ground, which I've done before. All right, pull it down. Now see, the release lock has gone up, holding the charge bar from moving out so that the powder is not released. Now when I move it to the next station, since the charge bar is into the left, when I move it, no shot will come down. We'll just finish off the pre-crimp and the 2 crimps. Pre-crimp, crimp, move around, crimp and taper crimp, move it around, final taper crimp, and move it around. All right. And I've done 6 shells. That's what the MEC is designed to do, and a lot of people stop here. That is a very good looking crimp. It's got nice edges. It has a slight tapered edge from the taper station, but it's not totally tapered. And there's an extra step that I do with a tool from GAEP called the BN2, and this is a roll slash taper crimp. When I apply this tool to the shell, it will put a rounded taper on. It lowers the sides. It puts a rounded taper on the edge. It lowers the size of the edge and makes a nice round, good-looking shell. All right, so I'm going to place the camera here. Start the drill press. See here the drill press moving. This requires a little bit of oil on the drill press to make the taper, so that the shell will not get too hot. I use 3-in-1 silicone oil, a little bit of oil on the BN2, pull down a couple times, and now we have a finished shot shell. The shot shell on the right is a shot shell that has not had the BN2. The shot shell on the left has had the BN2. You can see it's nice, rounded, everything's put together well. This is another example. This one is one that people usually use. They usually do not do the taper crimp. I'll do the taper crimp on this one. Go. It's now nice and round. The edge is rounded. It's a nice round taper, and the crimp in the center part is very tight. That is a procedure for doing this. It takes about 10 minutes, 6 to 10 minutes to do a box of 25. So I can do approximately 8 to 10 boxes in 1 hour. There's another procedure that I do that I'm not doing at the moment, and the other procedure is to use a GAEP tool called, there's a GAEP pre-crimp tool and another GAEP tool called a rubassatore. When I'm using this procedure, the pre-crimp tool is placed in the location where the Spindex crimp is on, the Spindex pre-crimp is on the machine. go through the motions, pull it down, puts a pre-crimp on it. When it does that, I take the shell out and move it over to this press. This is a leather punch press for doing leather punches. I've adapted it to put the tool called the rebasatore. The rebasatore takes the pre-crimp, volcano-looking, and adds a little edge, a flat edge around the edge of the pre-crimp, and that helps keep that edge is then used when the crimp is folded in the BN2 and to provide a nice crimp. It turns out that the GAEP procedure with the pre-crimp, rebasatore, and BN2 produces a shell that's a little bit better than just the MEC procedure. This shell is better. It has a tighter, more consistent pressure when the shell is fired. It fires more pellets in the center pattern and of a patterning board, so that it's more effective in the shot when you're using it to shoot targets or birds or whatever. Currently, I'm using the MEC procedure without the MEC, without the GAEP pre-crimp and the GAEP rebasatore. And then once the shells come out, then I apply the BN. Once the shells come out of the procedure, I apply the BN2, and then I have a taper. It turns out that I have some results from patterning that taper and the taper in the BN2 works better than the default MEC. There's a couple other things here just to show you. This MEC is mounted on what's called a MEC. I can't remember the name of this. Has some name. Basically, it has screws to hold the MEC tight, and this is mounted to the table. I have this mounted in a cookie bake pan because when shot is spilled, you can see the shot around the edges. The shot drops onto the bake pan and not onto the floor. And then I also have this placed in a cutting board, and the cutting board has rows where both shot and powder will drop to try to keep it from going onto the floor. Still goes onto the floor occasionally, not a problem. I am in the middle of reloading on my new Grabber progressive machine. You do 6 shells at once. I'm in the middle of reloading, so I have 6 shells on here. There's two things that I do differently. One thing is, instead of the Spindex pre-crimp, I have the GAEP rebasatore. Additionally, when in station number 3, after the shot is dropped, I pull the completed shot out, put it in the GAEP pre-crimp, put it back in, and then continue. This adds a little bit of extra time, but I can do a box of 25 in about 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and do a few shells to give you an idea how this is working. The table for the shells rotates from station to station, and I'm ready to rotate it. One thing I do is look to make sure that there's a primer that has dropped from the primer tray before I rotate it. Without a primer, you would drop powder. All right, I have a shell in there. Rotate it. The primer drops into the primer hole, and I say primer. the newly D-primed shell hull is placed over the primer. I take off the completed shell, put it in, I put in a new shell and say hull. Now I'm going to pull the handle, which will lower the shot tube into the, actually it will reprime this hull, lower the shot tube in, and let shot come out into. At the same time, that's the powder tube. The shot tube will drop in and drop the shot in. In order to do this, I have to put a hole on the shot tube. So I usually say hole. You should be able to see, I'll move this away, that there's now shot in the completed shot in the hole. The step now that I do a little bit different in order to use the GAEP tools is to pull out the hole with the shot in it. I have to be careful to get it out so the shot doesn't spill. Put it on the leather punch press that has the GAEP pre-crimp and do the pre-crimp. That is the extra step that I have for the GAEP tools. Now I'm ready to do again. Primer, completed shell, new hole, wad, shell is loaded. Now with shot, pull the shell out. Use the GAEP pre-crimp tool. Has a nice little pre-crimp on there. You can see the rebasatory step puts a cone, although that cone didn't come out very well, and an edge that allows you to have a better crimp. Primer, completed shell, hull, and wad. Crimp, occasionally I have a hard time getting these in and out. I have to make sure. I'm going to leave that one out because I can't get it in and I don't want to spill. I'll put it off to the side. Primer, completed hull, new hull, wad. That one came out, should go back in easy. Pre-crimp, primer, completed shell, new hull, wad. And I follow that procedure. The hull that wouldn't go back in because of the rotating plate, I just place here. I can have up to 4 here. And at the end of the 25 shells, when the plate is emptied out, I then put this hull back into the machine and do the final steps. All right, I do 25 shells at a time. So I have 18 shells and 7 here. There's one shell there, and there's 6 shells on the table. So this is going to be the last set and I'm going to run through everything. First thing I need to do is I take the primer tray level so that a primer won't drop. And then I can run through. The only tricky part is I have to watch the bar to make sure that this lock sets when there's no hull in station 2. It's supposed to do this automatically, but it doesn't. If there's no hull in station 2 and the powder drops, it gets all over the place. So now I'm just going to continue and clear out the table. All right, primer, completed shell, wad, and crimp. No primer, no completed shell yet. Turn it around, there's a completed shell. Make sure I take that out. If I don't take that out, that gets pushed in. I have to throw the shell away. Need to watch the bar and the lock bar. Probably have to fix that because I don't think it's working. All right, so when I pull the handle down, this is supposed to pop up. And it popped up. There's no shell in the second station. That's the lock, and now no powder will dump. All right. Last crimp. Rotate this around. Take the completed shell out. I'm going to now put this one in, see if it will go back. It did go back, so it will get done. It will get done. Completed shell. Rotate. Completed shell. Rotate. Completed shell. And rotate. All the shells are off the table. And there's 50 of them. They take about 10 minutes. Take a little less time if I don't have this crimp step. The last step in the GAEP procedure is these shells have a pretty decent tapered edge. I think that's a tapered edge. And the tapered edge comes from this last station however, that tapered edge is as nice as a commercial shell. So GAEP has a product called BN2 that runs on a drill press. All the shells get put through the drill press and it puts on a very nice tapered crimp. I'll do a couple of those for you and then we'll cancel out. All right, let's see here. All right, there's a drill. In order to do this, I have to put oil on the drill bit, on the BN2. Keep the shells from burning. I have a little oil cloth. Put 3-in-1 oil on that. Touch the BN2 with the oil and pick up 5 shells. Do the 5 shells, and I'm going to put each shell in the shell holder that was used to box a shell. Alright, here we go. Just pull down. I don't know if you can tell if you're an aficionado of shot shells. There is a nice crimp, a nice rounded edge here, and the top part of the crimp is folded in. Top part of the edge is folded in, which holds the crimp in. By the way, this is an 8-petal crimp, 8-petal shot shell, and I'm only using the 6-petal pre-crimper, but it does 8 petals. All right, so that one's done. Do the other 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. These shells are put in the shell holder. The shell holder stacks up 25 shells, and then shell box can be placed over the top to keep the holder. Some people reuse their cardboard shell holders. I have a set of shot shell holders basically I can do about 3 flats of shells. I'll show you a picture of this when it's filled up. For the last section, I'm going to go ahead and reload about 10 shells. I have 10 spaces left. I'll reload 10 shells, which will give me 2 boxes. It'll also show you using the progressive machine in a full sequence. And if it all works, it'll be really nice. If it doesn't work, I'll edit some stuff out. All right, gotta find a place to hook up my camera. How about right here? All right, so you're able to see all of the parts. Oops. There we go. You should be able to see all the parts of the machine as they operate. And I'll go ahead and do it, and I'll talk through it as I'm doing it. All right. Take the bag of wads. Put out about 10 wads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That was exactly 10. All right. I'll start pulling. I'll tip up the primer tray. Put a shell in. Pull down. The first shell is deprimed, and the primer drops. Put a second shell in. Pull the primer tray down. First hole is in the hole in station 1 is deprimed. Primer's dropped, and the bar comes out and releases powder into the shell in station 2. All right. Station 3, this bar is going to push. If you can see that, this bar will push the charge bar back in to drop shot in here, and then the charge bar will go out to drop powder in here. All right. Station 3. I think you can probably see all of that. Can you see it all? Maybe not. All right, here we go. Wad. Down. Bars pushed in, which drops the shot. Bar comes out, which drops the powder. Move it around. All right. Hull. Wad. Move it around. Hull. Wad. Get the wad on there correctly. Move it around. Hull. Wad. That was the 6th shell, so now I'm starting to get new shells out. I'm going to keep track, so I only get 10. There's 5 on here. That means I need to do 5 more. Hull. Finish shell. Hull. Finish shell. Hull. Rotate. Finish shell. There are now 5 up here and 6 left, so I only need 1 more, and then I'll stop so that I will only fill the tray up. Hull, wad. All right, so now in station 1, which is right here, I'm not going to put a hull in. I need to turn the the primer tray down so fibers don't drop. I'm still putting the hull in, the wad in. The bar is still moving out, and drop shot and drop powder. Done. There's now 4 left and 4 holes. Now what's going to happen is station 2 is empty. This charge bar will be pushed over and the lock, a bar lock, will go up and lock the bar in place. All right. Wad, bar lock pops up, bar is locked in place, no powder will drop. Empty, finished hull, finished shell. Bar stays locked. Finished shell. Bar stays locked. Finished shell. Bar stays locked. And that's the last shell. All right. So these 10 shells that I've just done are in the tray. Pull this out. They're in the tray, ready to have the bee into taper crimp. All the rest of these that are marked have already been done. So I'm only going to do these 10. And I'll set this up and show you how that works. So the taper crimp is done with this drill press and using the BN2, which is a GAEP, G-A-E-P tool. It spins around at a certain RPM. The shell is placed in the holder. The GAEP tool is pulled down and it puts the tapered shell. Every 5 shells, I have to oil the, put 3-in-1 oil. This doesn't heat up. I usually put 5 shells in my hand. Do 5 at a time. 1. 2, and the crimp looks very good. Everything is tight. There's a nice rounded edge on the taper. So that everything is tight. There's a rounded edge on the shell. That rounded edge helps the shot shells go in and out of a semi-auto and a pump. I put the 5 shells over here. I usually am loading them in a box. I'm not loading them in a box today. So I'm just placing them back in the holder. will mark them out after I get them all done. All right, turn the machine back on, oil. Got the final 5 shells in my hand. Pull. Pull. So all the shells have been tapered. This last set of shells needs to be marked. So I'll mark them with the felt tip marker. I'll put a single line on top of each of these shells. The shells are then put in boxes. I'm not going to demonstrate that right now. But then this is 25 shells. It goes in one box. This is 25 shells. It goes in the second box. When I'm done, I vacuum. I have a handheld DeWalt power operated vacuum, and I vacuum out all the shot and all the powder. I'll turn this off to do that. You don't really want to need to see that. I take the used primers, dump them in the pickle jars, pickle jugs. I'm not sure, someday maybe those I'll be famous and people will collect those. I'm going to put the covers back on, and then I'll be finished with this part. So I told you that the system works better than just the MEC by itself. And I have some figures that I'll just put into a JPG and put them with the video, and it'll be the last thing on the video. And I probably will not explain the figure. Basically, what you'll see in the final figure are a set of numbers. I tested the MEC only shells, the MEC shells with just the BNT, and the MEC shells with the full GAEP procedure. The MEC shells with the full GAEP procedure actually work the best, or the BN2 shells. The shells that were in just the MEC procedure worked good, but not totally as good as the other shells. So I've chosen right now to do the BN2 procedure for every box, in addition to the MEC procedure. The BN2 system takes about 2 to 3 minutes for a box of shells. So it adds 3 minutes. It makes my total time on one box of shells approximately 10 minutes. This is the box stacker, all stacked up. You can see that the shells alternate the base and the end so that they fit appropriately. Take a box. Pull off the label from the last shot shell. Also, notice that there's a mark on the end of the shells. I put a mark on each shell that tells me how many times the shell has been reloaded. After about 4 times, I just toss the shells. Box just fits over like this. Sorry, I sometimes have a little issue. This issue is these shells. All right, they're reloaded back. Sort of hard to do this with one hand. usually have two hands. I'm gonna go ahead and okay, clamp this so you can see. Turn them upside down, pull it out, put the lid on. I make labels for each of these boxes to tell the powder, the loading techniques and components, and the date. And I shoot these in order of the date that they were done. These are splatterburst targets. Each red spot, each yellow spot represents a place where a pellet hit and it burst the black, so you can count. These are the targets that had the largest number of pellets at each choke and distance. This is STS 20 yards, cylinder choke. STS 30 yards, cylinder choke. This is the BN2, 30 yards, with the LM choke. This is the MEC at 40 yards, with the LM choke. This is the STS at 50 yards, with the mod choke. And this is the MEC at 50 yards with the full choke. The next thing you'll see is a XLS file that shows the results. Won't be video, so you're going to have to remember this. The numbers show the number of pellets. The top one table will be the number of pellets in a 30-inch circle, and the second will be the number of pellets in the splatterburst body.